Long ago, when humanity was young and primitive, the world was ablaze with war. Violent and bloody conflicts between tribes over land, culture, and faith ran rampant through the earth. Then one day, spheres of light rained from the sky, as if the heavens themselves wept for the chaos they bore witness to. The people of the world were fascinated by these lights, standing in awe of them as they fell, attempting to catch them on their tongues as one would snow or rain. It was soon met with a great blessing and a terrible curse. For those who consumed the light would gain power attainable only in their wildest dreams. The flames of war grew brighter, but like a grand furnace starving for fuel, it quickly exhausted itself, ending when a lone individual used his power to conquer and unite humanity into one people. These lights and the powers they bestowed would come to be known as the Archetypes. In the modern age, humanity has managed to become a prosperous people, thanks in part to the powers bestowed upon them. They live mostly peaceful lives, slow to start and quick to end, simply going about their days living as comfortably as they can manage. The Archetypes are now more a product than anything else, purchasable by anyone, but expensive to most, with even the most utilitarian abilities going for thousands. Their shared land, Pangaea, is led by the lineage of the warrior who brought them together so long ago, aided by the governors of the various regions that compose their land. However, no matter how peaceful the world, how simple or complex one's life is, the heart yearns for excitement, for action. Even action lived vicariously. So it is humanity created pictures, music, stories, games, and sports, none of which are more beloved or revered than the Archetypo Makai. The Archetype Battles. On this day in particular, an Iron Man exhibition match was to be held, but not between regular combatants. This match was open to the public, encouraging any wishing to break into the industry to participate. For the 16 most impressive fighters would be offered a contract with the Kafab Archetypo Association and given their own archetype for their careers ahead. One tale begins here in the grand hall of Hulk City Arena, the ground space of the size of a football field. With over 40 participants starting it, some having traveled from the far corners of Pangaea for a chance to rise to Archetypo stardom. In the ringside stand stood a brother and sister, a young, excitable girl basking in the wonder of every new thing she came across, while her brother, a teenager just shy of 20, simply gazed dully at the event before him, camcorder in hand and waiting for the fights to begin, wondering if he'd see exactly what his father saw in these battles. "Look at all the people here," the young girl cried out. "A lot of guys interested in getting their asses kicked, huh?" her brother replied. "Hey, Felix, what archetypes do you think we'll see?" the curious girl asked her brother, the silver-blonde boy simply replying with a shrug. "It's an entire arena filled with amateurs. If a power shows up, let's wipe the floor with everyone else." "But then there won't be 16 people for the slots." "But there will be at least 60 more minutes of my life to spend elsewhere," thought the boy. "Attention, fighters!" cried the announcer. "You are 10 minutes to starting. Any combatants with second thoughts or ill-prepared ability should leave at this time." The announcement echoed through the arena, the various fighters eyeing each other, a mix of nervousness, fear, and excitement on their faces. For many of them, this was their first attempt at entering an exciting new world. For others, it was another in a long and painful series of attempts. The bitterness and desperation in their hearts spilled from the tension of their muscles, the lumber of their walk, the cold stares they gave their doe-eyed younger competition. Felix readied the camera, his sister bouncing up and down as 10 minutes ticked away, and soon the announcer called the attention of the arena once more. Attention! The battle royale for the spot in Kafab's new generation of fighters will soon begin. The referees huddled onto the field, jogging into their designated areas, while the combatants began to face each other, taking the stance of their various martial arts, staring at one another down. Some seeming to group up against each other, while the small crowd that had been gathered in the stands roared for the battle to start. The time is now, let the battle begin! With the announcer's words, the field of Hulk City Arena exploded into violence. Wherever one looked, they could find an intense confrontation between two or more fighters. On one end of the field, two men rained blow after blow into each other, doing their best to catch the other's attack with parries, slipping through whatever cracks they made in the opponent's defenses, only for both of them to be blindsided by two separate combatants, seemingly working together to take out their competition. On the other end, a similar conflict was playing out, as two hulking men charged wildly at the young woman, their attacks seeming ever more desperate as she weaved between them gracefully, nicking each other in the process. The two savage fighters seemed to slow down, with the woman making her move to attack, only to catch a hook across the jaw. "I got you, you slithery little..." "Huh?" Though caught off guard, this fighter had great reflexes and great technique, having rolled her head with the punch to soften the blow. Capitalizing on the shifting weight of the unbalanced opponent, she held his arm tight, kicking at the leg, holding his weight up and pulling back with all her might, using her own leg as a pivot from which she flung her larger opponent over her and slammed him onto the ground below. The man roared out in agony, grasping his arm, as it appeared he couldn't take the tension and sudden halt, its muscles having torn in the process. His opponent nursed her own injury, rubbing her struck jaw and turning her attention back to his unofficial teammate. Not all too broken up about it, he would seem, about his impromptu partner's wailing, eyeing them both as just two more people to take out, with both fighters taking their stances. The various non-stop action battles were somewhat overwhelming for Felix to record, unsure where to turn his attention in the spectacle of mayhem. With everyone at war with everyone else, alliances formed and dismantled at a moment's notice, seemingly unstoppable fighters with points already near the double digits being KO'd by their combatants with only one other point to their name. Wonder if I can make it easier just to focus on one person and switch if they get cold-cocked. Do you think Dad will like all the fights? Don't think he could hold his job as long as he has if he didn't, Phoebe. The crowd cheered on the many combatants of the exhibition, some being family members there to support their loved ones, others, like little Vivian, simply there to bask in the glow of combat, gleefully enjoying the hard-hitting attacks and flashy movements of the fighters. For Felix, though, he was here entirely on behalf of his father, the Archetypo Mackay agent. The sibling's father was something of an Archetypo fanatic, with the walls of his study, and their house in general, lined wall to wall with memorabilia and merchandise, shelves with season after season of tournaments, of exhibition fights. It even endeavored to train his kids from a young age to fight, in the hope that one day there could be a family Archetypo brand, with him as their agent, a prospect Vivian took to wholeheartedly. And something Felix had soured on by the time he was 8. With their pops on a scouting job in another part of town, joined by their equally fanatical mother, it was put on Felix to both scout this specific event as well as babysit his little sister, setting his camera sights on one of the battles that actually caught his eye. The young man brought his thumb to his face and began to bite his nail, doing his best to get into the headspace of his father, thinking of why he enjoyed these battles and what he sought when scouting new talent. This guy seems pretty fit. Don't know his actual score, but he's landed almost every hit he's thrown, so it must be good. A thought that was soon put to the test when another contestant attempted to blindside his chosen film subject, succeeding had his target not caught sight of him, sidestepping the assailant before attempting to retaliate with a vertical roundhouse kick. His leg only met with the air as his opponent managed to hard duck into a crouch and seemed to be eyeing his opponent's chin. And of course, I backed the wrong horse here. Felix had known from the years of practice and never-ending talks of various fighting styles with his father that the chin was an area of particular interest, colloquially known as the button. Striking it from below could easily cause the brain to fly back into the skull, making it a must-strike area for dazing and knockouts. And this assailant was in the prime position to strike at it. Filming with dull eyes, time seemed to slow down for Felix, his subject's leg flying right over the head of his opponent. He could see the panic in the man's eyes, the tension of the other's muscles as they began to push him forward, putting his back onto the strike that would put his target to sleep. Then, all at once, the expressions on their faces seemed to flip. Where there was once panic, there was now a reassuring grin of anticipation. And where there was once a content, calculated smile, there was now confusion, which quickly morphed into a horrific realization. With the same leg he had just swung with, the defending fighter performed a powerful straight kick aimed right at the opponent's face, which his now panicked foe rushed to guard. The sole of the foot connected with the man's arm, successfully protecting his face. However, the forward momentum he used to step in continued forth, shifting him to the side, thanks in part to the counterforce of his target's kick, and in part to the weight he himself shifted into for a strike that would no longer come. Much of the crowd erupted into awed cheer at this amazing display of reflexes, Felix himself staring in shock as the fighter he believed was assured a fast knockout was forced to spiral into the dirt beside the man he had attempted to lay out with a sucker punch. Quick to capitalize, the kick-favoring combatant reeled his leg back to his side once more and struck at the prone opponent to his other, who kept up his defense, letting the force of this attack push him rolling away from what was now his assailant. Their places in this fight now switched. Once he had gained enough distance from his previously on-edge target, he scrambled to his feet and back into his fighting stance, a bewildered look about him as he stared down at the man only meters away from him, an ear-to-ear grin on his face. He took his own stance, a grin that was slowly but surely returned in kind. The two men stood ready and eager to battle one another, legs tensing up, awaiting some silent signal to strike the ground at full force and propel them into each other's dance of reflexes. A signal that soon sounded and led into a solid minute of all-out brawling. Punch after punch thrown into one another, their guards taking the brunt of their blows, quickly building bruises on their arms and legs, either going unnoticed or ignored, as the two born combatants effectively faded from the competition and into their own little world of battle. You've got to be a total masochist or a complete nutcase down in this hell, especially with guys like this. Felix gazed at the various conflicts before him in complete astonishment. For what purpose would anyone willingly put themselves through any of this? Money? Fame? Weren't there other sports that offered all of that? Was it ego? Something that begged to be called the strongest? Did such a thing matter in a profession that outright required the use of magic, that routinely allowed armed combatants into the brackets? You couldn't deny the talent of the fighters. They were clearly skilled in their various martial arts, not masters, but they had deeper knowledge and experience than most others. These people have to be totally insane. I don't know what exactly Dad thinks when he drafts these crazy bastards, but He's got some serious issues himself to try and get us involved with this crap. We're gonna have a serious talk with him and Mom when we get home. I don't think you really understand what he's trying to push us into, Vivi. Vivi? Vivian! Felix looked to his side, wondering if his serious tone had put down the 6-year-old sister's mood. His blood very quickly turned to ice when he found she wasn't where she was a moment ago. And it only got colder after surveying around. He noticed a small figure on the field, moving towards one of the fights currently taking place. What the hell are you doing, Vivian? Felix bellowed out, stopping the little girl in her tracks, who hesitantly turned to look back at her brother, waving awkwardly before attempting to return to her trek, only for the scared, sick sibling to call for her again, and burst out onto the field, rushing towards his sister at breakneck speed, inching closer and closer to her. He was almost within arm's reach when out of the corner of his eye he saw a figure moving towards Vivian as well. A horrid feeling crept in his heart, urging him to move even faster, to kick the ground with enough force to break it if need be. The figure sped with him, actively attempting to outpace him, but Felix was almost there. And outstretching his arms, he scooped up the wayward child into them, planning on continuing his charge till he was at the opposite end of the stands, only to quickly have that plan shattered by a ruthless clothesline from his side, causing his head to jerk into Vivian's. The young man fell to the ground, managing strength enough to roll away and quickly scrambling to his feet, now weeping sister in tow. What the hell? The boy strained out. Felix stared down his assailant, doing his best to keep from collapsing. Everything from the sprint to the clothesline to the scramble worked in tandem to make the room spin for the young man, his attacker simply sneering before speaking up. It's free for all. Anyone can join at any time. If you didn't want to be socked, you should have stayed off the field, shitty little brats. The man before Felix was a tall, older fighter, easily mid-30s, scruffy blonde hair with streaks of gray, and a single gumball-sized earring dangling from the side of his head as he carried himself with a sense of arrogant pride, thinking himself above the people around him, cold, uncaring eyes set on the boy and his sister. Look, this is a big misunderstanding. We're not competitors. She's 6, for God's sake. She was just being a dumb kid. You got nothing to gain from this. Like I said, free for all. Once you're on the field, you're free game until you're unconscious or run off. If you don't fight, well, that just makes you free points. Felix was at a loss for words. He had heard about people like this from his father, fighters with no honor or morality, psychopaths in the guise of combatants, using their position as an excuse to actively inflict harm onto others. These people weren't simply heels playing into whatever archetype they found themselves with. They were monsters, plain and simple. You really think a Fabe will sign up on a freak that beats up little kids? Nah, but in this industry, there's always someone looking for a damn good heel. As soon as the word left his mouth, the older combatant turned with frightening speed, throwing a spinning heel kick aimed right at the head of his unfortunate younger opponent, who just barely managed to put up a guard against the brutal attack, letting out a groan of pain as it hit the base of his forearm, smothering it against his cheek. Get it? Felix desperately looked around, hoping to find someone, anyone rushing to the aid of his sister and himself, finding only the multiple battles taking place, with the referees all being preoccupied, keeping track of them, the nearest one being at least 15 to 20 yards away. And dealing with a 3-on-3 mess of a fight, screaming and yelling would do no good in this cacophony of beatings and cheers. And if the crowd noticed their plight, it was most likely mistaken for a misunderstanding. A concerned martial artist attempting to protect a child from some unknown young punk. Effectively alone without any options, the desperate brother held his sister tightly and whispered into her ear. "Coil into a ball. Tell the ref what's going on when you land." Vivian was confused at first, still wiping the tears from her eyes when Felix reeled back and with all his might threw the little girl over their attacker, hoping to hit the referee and gain his attention. She screamed as she was sent flying through the air, the cruel older man not content with letting any of his prey slip past. He quickly turned, hopping into the air, assured his height would allow him an easy recapture of the girl. Fingers nearly in reach of her hair, a cold, sadistic smile spanned across his face, but soon turned to a look of surprise. In great agony, as the center of his body lurched forward, his torso pulling back away from the girl as she curled up and ripped through the air, his own airborne form falling to the ground. He looked to his side as he fell and was met with the enraged face of the boy he had been preying upon moments before, his heel pressed directly into his right side, just beneath the ribs. If the chin was the button that turned the opponent off, the liver was their self-destruct switch, a vulnerable organ easily damaged and extraordinarily painful when hurt. Leaving any hit there collapsed and breathless, something Felix had hoped to take full advantage of. Believing someone like this would be ill-content to simply let an innocent girl go, letting that feeling of anger, disgust, and brotherly love carry into his attack, he followed through on his own spinning heel kick, knocking his opponent into the dirt. The man gasped for breath as he struggled on the ground, shaking as he attempted to rise back to his feet, only to collapse while his young prey took a combat stance, his sister knocking down the referee as she landed on his back. "You fucking brat," the older man choked out. Felix stood his ground, gaze shifting from his opponent to his sister to the other fighters around him, but never leaving the man for more than a moment. It would be a minute before the referee found what was going on and came to step in, and while a direct hit to the liver was devastating, there was no guarantee it would keep his opponent down. Coupled with the fact that anyone could mistake him for a fighter and blindside him, he didn't want to take the chance with running, opting instead to remain stationary and ready. "You're the guy who wanted the fight. Don't complain about getting what you wish for." The man snarled at Felix before a chuckle began to escape from his lips. "Know something? I was saving this for a real fight. You know, big all-out brawl. But damn if this shit doesn't hurt. You've got a hell of a kick." He laughed, causing an uneasy feeling to build in Felix's gut. Did this man have a weapon on him? It wasn't unheard of for guys like this to pull out knives, but he was practically naked, save for boxing shorts that didn't look like they could hold a switchblade. This fact didn't ease Felix any. He knew this man was about to do something terrifying. Then, he pulled off his earring and crushed it in his fist, which began to leak blood. And something else, a dull light, that grew brighter as he opened his hand, revealing a red, glowing sphere the size of a marble with a black symbol on it, an arm, with negative space used to represent sinew. That's... Name's Ricky, but after today, think everyone's gonna be calling me the Muscle. Felix moved, legs tensing as his opponent brought the Archetype to his lips and let it slip into his mouth. As soon as he was within reach, the boy kicked his opponent's face with as much force as he could muster, sending him reeling back, blood and spit flying away. But not the orb. Where is it? No, shit! A loud whistle blew within their vicinity. Felix looked up to see the ref his sister landed on, bringing a hand down to gesture to him, Vivian riding on his back. 2 solid hits, 2 points, knockout. 2 points, knockout. 3 points. Huh? Wait, I'm not... I apologize for not watching over the match sooner. I'm sure there are points you may have earned that I've neglected to count. But no, I am watching you now and will be keeping track of you from now on. You think I'm... How'd you even come to... Felix stammered out frantically. Through the brave efforts of this little girl here. The interrupted referee pointed to the still crying Vivian, blubbering away incoherently, pointing and screaming at the man laid out in front of them. Oh, I see. The boy thought, ashamed he had put his sister through that unscheduled flight. Worry not, I'll see she gets back to the stands. Be grateful, son. Not everyone's got family brave enough to wander out on the field for him. Suddenly, Ricky's body began to spasm, eyes opening to emit a red glow, just like the archetypal orb, face contorting into a gleeful, vicious smile. Shit, get my sister out of here, now! Yes sir, good luck to you. The referee dashed to the stands, dodging through the carnage around him while Felix began to back away from the rising body of his foe, his own tensing as the man rose to his feet. Oh, pain's all gone now, and I feel much, much better than before. Felix kept backing up, arms squared for whatever was to come, hoping he'd find a chance to run and leave this monstrous man to someone else. He wasn't sure what he was about to go up against. Not only an idea of its abilities and its basic enhancements, all archetypes gave to people strength, speed, and stamina. It was a muscular arm, right? Maybe all it does is enhance his muscles. Kind of like that archetype Dad showed me once, a guy with stretchy arms whose archetype was the snake or something. Now, where were we? The man asked, snapping Felix back to attention. Oh yeah, I was about to kill you for 3 points, wasn't I? Ricky burst into a mad dash, consumed with hatred for the boy before him. He cocked his arm back and threw his fist right at Felix's head, cross whizzing past his face as the kid rolled his torso back and returned in kind with an uppercut to the reborn opponent's jaw. He's definitely faster than before, but I'm not weighed down by a 6-year-old this time. If I can knock him out, I'm out of here. Felix's fist was centimeters from Ricky's jaw, but just as soon as the two recoiled, Ricky's elbow smashed into the poor boy's face, faster than even his previous punch, sending the unfortunate teenager spiraling meters away. The older blonde laughed at his newfound speed and strength, with Felix struggling to get up, dazed and nursing his cheek from the pain. He wondered if it wouldn't be easier to play dead before remembering the type of person he was up against, until I make sure he actually was. Finally on his feet, Felix looked as his sadistic opponent made his way towards him, a few fighters nearby wanting a piece, only to be batted away like flies. Come on, brat. Let's see what you've got. The powered-up man before Felix beat his chest in challenge, which the boy reluctantly accepted, arms squared up around his face as he ran towards his enemy, thinking of the best way to deal with or escape him. Muscles tensed as he threw his first punch, a direct hit onto his stomach followed by a peppering of kicks, and launched himself back. Nothing. The man called Ricky simply laughed off whatever paltry damage he had accrued, making the heart of his younger opponent sink even deeper. The silver-blonde young man stood there for a moment, staring down at the laughing fool before him, and was soon enough assaulted with a roundhouse, bobbing in time for it to blow past his head, only for the leg to snap shut, again faster than it was thrown, landing square into the guard Felix kept around his face, which protected him but didn't prevent the attack from tossing him aside. His opponent capitalized quickly, kicking into Felix's guard repeatedly, his legs snapping back for the next attack almost instantly. Damn it, what do? His limbs retract faster than I can counter. Felix cycled through all the information his father had ever imparted on him on fighting. The various styles in the world, critical points of interest, shifting weight. He wondered if any of this could even apply against a superhuman opponent. Then, it hit him. A conversation he had roughly 10 years ago, during one of his dad's sparring sessions, and the grin on his father's face when asked. What's the point of any of this, anyway? The better power's just gonna win, isn't it?
Oh, is that what you think?
The amusement in his father's voice confused him. It's not like you could fight on even footing with an archetype without one of your own, right?
That's what everyone thinks. But if that were the case, they wouldn't even bother testing the fighter's martial art ability. Hell, wouldn't matter if they had any at all.
The father looked at his son, a patient smile on his face, some unknown force seeming to assure him the reluctant boy would learn to love the game again.
Archetypes are just humans at day's end, susceptible to all the same tricks normal fighters are. Don't let their flashy arts fool you.
Susceptible to all the same tricks. Those words flashed in Felix's mind as the assault of kicks rained down on him, and a strategy began to form.
Die, you little shit!
The next kick Ricky tossed managed to push Felix onto his back, the older fighter quickly setting up a stomp on the young man's stomach or head, a coin flip which he effectively had rigged.
I thought this power would give an even bigger strength boost than the average archetype, but so far I've only managed to contract and tense my muscles with the right attack. Oh well, it's at least good enough to keep bastards like this in line.
Ricky brought down his heel. Regardless of what the boy decided to guard, or if he chose correctly, the muscle archetype would allow for a near instantaneous course correction for the man's rock-solid kick. However, Felix would guard neither, opting instead to sweep Ricky's leg. The sadistic man cried out as he fell, if only out of surprise, his newfound power ensuring his fall would be harmless.
Is that all?
Before the muscle could finish his sentence, a familiar pain ran throughout his body, and once more he was met with a changed expression of his opponent's face. A smile, one that told him he had been played. Felix had let himself be kicked back for positioning. Even without enhanced strength, a leg sweep was an easy way to trip up an opponent, and with proper targeting, leave their vital spots open. And the one Felix had just kicked was already badly damaged. I don't know much about how archetypes work, but I know for a fact they're not cure-alls. You'll live it and get better. You just got a higher tolerance for pain, and a nice little power high for good measure.
You fucking...
Not content to let his assailant catch his breath, Felix followed up on his kick with another, Ricky desperately guarding against it, crying out as his arm pushed against the damaged organ, is using all the force to roll away. The young man sprawled to his feet, and with his opponent still nursing his aching wound, the reluctant fighter started to back up and soon made a sprint for the stands. I did it! I outmatched it! I can't believe I actually beat a guy with a power! Now I just need to... Felix's thought was quickly interrupted by a cold shiver down his spine, one that begged him to look back, and when he did, he was greeted by the sight of Ricky clutching his side and barreling towards the young man, his enhancements and power easily making him faster than the running boy.
Kill you. I'll kill you!
Ricky reeled his free hand back, its muscles extremely tense and growing bigger, the hatred for his opponent apparently fueling the growth of his powers. Unfortunately for his oversized limb, apparently slowed him down, as well as throwing off his balance, tilting him to the right. Felix's mind raced with him. He had focused so much on escaping to the stands, it hadn't occurred to him that his foe would simply hunt him down into them. He said as much himself. There are archetype federations that would take psychos like him with glee. Doesn't matter if I make it to the stands, he'll just kill me anyway. This bitter truth infuriated Felix to no end. Why was he here, running from a madman bent on his death? Why did his sister run onto the field? Why, of all people, to have an archetype at this event, was it this deranged monster? These questions only made his blood boil more and more, and with the shadow of his attacker's arm looming overhead, he steeled himself. There was no more room for reluctance or escape. He was tired of this idiot at his back. It was time to rid himself of the bastard. Die! The war cry sounded. Ricky threw his enlarged fist at the head of his prey, feeling only the air coating his skin as the boy ducked and tripped him up. The new weight of his arm carrying him forth, spinning around till he crashed into the fence, separating the field from the stand. Slumping against it, he fought against the pain, cursing under his breath that he did his best to keep on his feet. Looking up, he saw his foe rush towards him, a determined look in his eye as he kept his arms squared at his side. No! No! With the massive arm, Ricky shielded the right side of his body, the massive muscle guard perfectly protecting his weak organ. He's probably hoping to knock me out with a boot to the head. Hoping the added days will make me pass out. If I use this new ability to strengthen my facial muscles, I can take it to the chin. And once he's hit me, I'll use my powers in tandem to squeeze his neck till it shatters. Running at full force, Felix kept his eyes on his target, his anger keeping him focused and his muscles tense. This would be it, the finishing blow. Closing in, he jumped into a flying kick, an action that drew an ecstatic smile from his opposition. He was playing just how he had predicted, his victory assured. So he thought. Instead of aiming for the sadistic fighter's head, Felix threw the weight of his body into the right leg of his opponent, angry eyes burning into the bewildered gaze of Ricky, as a sickening snapping sound below him. The weight of his arm and Felix's body was too much to bear. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the arena, the old fighter falling to his side, the pain finally too great as he slipped into unconsciousness. And soon after, a loud buzzer rang, signaling the end of the Iron Man match. Felix collapsed, sitting on the field as the referee who'd taken his sister rushed to him. "That was one hell of a fight, kid. Didn't a number on the poor bastard, though." He started it," Felix retorted between pants. "And someone's gonna finish it, right?" "Yeah, I can get behind that. Mind giving me your name?" "Huh? It's Felix. Felix Torres." The boy replied, too tired for aliases or excuses. The ref wrote his name down on his board and thanked him before jogging off to other fighters. "Guess I'm in this fight officially now. Whatever, I didn't score that many hits, so no worries. Gotta find Vivian in the camcorder." The young man slowly made his way up, scanning for his sister before spotting her back in the arena and heading to her. "Felix, are you okay? Is that guy dead? Did you kill him? Did you... Ow!" The oldest sibling punched his sister's cheek in frustration. "You have a lot of explaining to do on the way out of here, little girl." Rubbing her cheeks on the verge of tears, Vivi soon found herself in her brother's warm embrace. "For now, I'm just happy you're safe." With the exhibition over, the announcer collected the fighters' point totals from the various referees. Felix back behind the camera to catch the new 16 stars of the Archetypal world. "Ladies and gentlemen of the ring, I thank you all for your valiant efforts. But only a handful of you will make it to Kafab's hallowed halls. In alphabetical order, these are the fighters to be offered a contract. With 37 points, our first pick, Anna Wasser. Our second pick, Carlton Iokas with 35 points. Third pick at 40 points, Desmond Ventura." At the end of the name, the announcer's eyes widened in surprise. "Wow, didn't expect one like this would show up. Ahem. Seems we've an exciting breakout fighter, folks. He gained only 23 points, however, they were gained against a genuine archetype, seemingly with none of his own. Knowing that, we've decided to double his score." The crowd murmured with excitement and confusion. Someone had battled against a power and won without their own. Oh no. With 46 points, our fourth pick for the new generation, Felix Torres.